Hello everybody, this is RodLab video tutorial number 11, and in this one I'm going to talk a little bit about reusing some of your previous hollow results and some section combining tips. And I think this is going to be my last RodLab tutorial for a little while until some people give me some feedback of what they're looking for help with. So I don't normally talk this much, it's kind of weird. Let's start here. I'm going to open my taper translation, and this time I'm going to say I'd like to work with the Dickerson 9016. And as always, I'm going to come in here and change the name on that. And this is going to be an R-quad as well. So let's just, before we do anything, calculate the taper. And again, you'll see it's right on top of itself, exactly what I expect. And what I'd like to do is, I was pretty happy, let's say, with that Dickerson 8013 that I made, and I want to make this one with a similar hollowing section and with a similar R-quad section. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to import from Save Taper. And I'm going to find that Dickerson R-Quad 8013 that we just made in the previous video. And when I do that, it's going to go ahead and grab my hollow wall, it's going to grab my tooling, it's going to grab my overbuild ratio, which I haven't changed this to a rectangular rod yet, and it should have grabbed all of my guides and rib information over here. And one thing that's different, you'll notice that it's got the hollow wall scaled from 0 to 108. This is a 9-foot rod, so it automatically scaled my station dimensions here to match what I needed to go from an 8-foot rod to a 9-foot rod. So let's go ahead and tell this rectangular rod, and again I want to do a spliced, so calculate new rod, and there we go, there's my R-quad. And once again I have to make just a little bit of an adjustment to my, there we go. So effectively right there, this has all the information for my dams that I put in before, and all the spacing, everything's the same. So effectively we're kind of ready to go. I just noticed one thing that popped up here, and with that is, it's a little warning that because I'm using this 1/4 inch mill to hollow this out, what that tells me is I'm going to have to do a little bit of sanding here to get this geometry correct, because on this very tall one and this very small one, that 1/4 inch without hollowing is not going to make it actually close. So I'm going to have to do some sanding to cut the edges off of the hollow. So let's come back here. It's kind of cheating, but we'll go ahead and change that 1/4 to a 3/8 and calculate again. And now that I've used a little wider tool, you can see that that warning went away. So basically that was a quick way to reuse my previous work and create a new taper. And I want to show you one more thing while we've got this up and running. One thing I've been doing a bit lately is I've been making a lot of travel rods. So I would like to make this, instead of a 2-piece, I would like to make this a 4-piece rod. And instead of a spliced, I'm going to go to a wrapped Kevlar ferrule. So let's go ahead and make this a 4-piece rod, calculate, and you see now I've got 4 different ferrules here, and I'm going to have to probably really work to, yeah, I've got all kinds of guides in the wrong space. So let's move these around a little bit, and interestingly enough, one of them that's in the wrong space is actually my butt. So let's go ahead and make that 29 inches. I'll move this back to 3.75. There we go. And now I've got all the rods, or all the guides rather, in a place. And you can see again, I've got the same warning. I'm going to have to do some manual sanding here. I can come back and I can make this. I've got a smaller tool here. Let's make that about here and try a little wider tool and see if that'll take out the issue. I don't think it will. Well, I guess it did. So I'm okay now. I won't have to do any manual sanding. And one thing, the reason I brought up this 4-piece rod and I thought would be interesting is if I'm going to do this, so if I were to create my G-code in HTML, I'm going to delete these previous ones. You'll see I'm going to get all kinds of G-code because I've got an R-quad. So I'm going to have 8 total different G-codes for my taper here. And that's a little overwhelming, and it means that I'm going to have to load 4 different strips 4 different times. So there's going to be 16 total strips I have to create here. So one thing that we could do is we could go ahead and combine section 1 and 2 here, and then I could combine section 3 and 4, and I could cut these at the same time, and then that would save me quite a bit of setting things up in the mill. So let's go ahead and do some combinations here. So I'm going to combine section 1 and it automatically picks section 2, and I'm going to combine section 3 and it automatically picks section 4. And just for reference, section 1 is my butt section, section 2 is my first mid, section 3 would be my second mid, and section 4 would be my tip. So let's go ahead and close that up, and I'm going to auto calculate again. Oops, wrong button. Auto calculate my guides and ribs. And now that I made changes, I'm going to recalculate this taper and come back. And let's just delete all of this out again. And now when I come back and I create my G-code and HTML report, I've actually created more because I create each of the individual sections. But instead of cutting my tapers with the individual sections, I've got these combo sections. And when I open one of these up, so here's my hollow section 1 and 2 for combination, and here's my base combo section for the taper. So let's open that one. So what you'll see here is I've got, this is going to be my mid, so we start cutting the mid, and again I think I have a 2-pass. Yeah, I got a 2-pass here. So I will cut the mid all the way down, and then I put in a little separation, and then I cut the base. So effectively I've cut both of those sections in one piece, which will be a little faster and save me some time. I hope that makes sense. I don't think I've explained it super well, but if you have questions, let me know. And I think that's all I'm going to cover here, and maybe this will be my last one for a while. So if you have questions, please ask, and I'll be happy to create some more videos that will help explain what we're doing here. So thank you for listening.